Good morning.
Jackson was extremely strong. He was really sweet. He was a tender older brother to Joshua and just a best friend to Logan, who in all of our pictures, Jackson's always looking to see what Logan's doing, to copy, or just to be like big brother. He loved his brothers.
He gave the best hugs, snuggly, very affectionate.
Jackson cared.
We started noticing something different with Jackson in January of this year, and his character started changing a little bit in December. He had like a separation anxiety, and then there were just little things that I started noticing in January that I think like only a mom could really notice, because I would point it out to him, his eyes are doing something different, and he couldn't tell. But it was the end of January that I started like really just kind of keeping a close eye on him and almost studying him. And then it was actually January 31st that I Googled. He started getting a crooked smile, so I Googled why a 5-year-old would have a crooked smile. That was word for word what I Googled. And there was an article of another little boy who had a crooked smile. His parents thought it was a cute thing that he started, and it ended up being a tumor that took his life shortly after. So I Googled what that tumor was and realized he had all the symptoms. So the next day, we called his pediatrician on February 1st. We took him to the ER to get all the tests done, and that's when we found out about his tumor. So
Katie called and said, hey, I think Jackson might have DIPG. And then she went through a list of probably 8 symptoms, and he hit every single one of them. And I was terrified. When we first found out Jackson's diagnosis, everything stopped. Like the whole world seemed to just, can't say freeze, but nothing else mattered.
political stuff didn't matter.
Yeah, this was election season. This is the year of COVID. The market, right? The stock market is going insane. And the stuff that we had all paid attention, we paid close attention to all of this. And none of that mattered in an instant. Nothing else mattered. And it's one of those things where thus far in life, like everything fixes itself. Everything, there's a cure for all of it, whether it's a job, a home, our next move, a relocation, or if it's healing, somebody's sick, somebody in our family. But this is the one time that we didn't have that assurance, and it's not that we didn't have that assurance, we had the opposite. We had a diagnosis that was bleak. There was absolutely no hope.
When we first found out, I think when anybody's like in this situation, especially when you're in the church, people send you scriptures, they send you healing books, everything that directs towards God performs miracles. All you need is faith. And so I think it's safe to say our faith was huge during that time where we believed that we were going to get this miracle of his healing. So I think that's kind of where our minds were for the entire time, was just banking on this miracle because we just believed it to be true, because we were reading all these verses that talk about miracles. We had people tell us, God never denied a miracle. If you read the Bible, God always performs miracles. He wants to heal. And so we just believed that meant that, okay, this is a phase we're going through and Jackson's gonna be healed through this. Like, we just need to be strong through this and get through it. And then we're gonna find our miracle. I would just lay next to him and just touch his chest because I could feel his heartbeat. Like, he's still here. But for me spiritually, I know when we were taking him to the hospital the second time, I was in the back seat with him, and he was sick the whole time going there, and I'm just holding a bucket for him. And like, we went to a church service somewhere that just said, all you need is faith. If you have faith, like, God's gonna give you whatever you pray for, essentially. And so I remember thinking, like, I don't know, like, I'm going to be angry. I don't know if I'm going to doubt what Scripture says if he doesn't heal my son. But at the very same breath, I was like, but I have no option to still have my faith and to still believe, because what gives us comfort with him being gone is that he's perfect in heaven and that he's in a better place. And I can't be in a place where I doubt anything in Scripture or doubt my faith or any of that when I'm going to find my peace knowing that he is with God.
My faith before was, as I said, absolutely sure. Even with hospice in the house, even hours before Jackson's last breath, I was confident, no doubt, that Christ was going to heal my son, and he was going to get up and eat a chocolate chip cookie. Jackson loved chocolate chip cookies, and we saved them for him. I had no doubt in God's ability, but at the same time, I think my prayer started changing. God, I know you're able, I know you're capable. I pray that you will, but I know that I don't command the God of the universe to do anything. And I think I started leaning into that more, probably the last week, maybe even the last few days. I still knew what God could do, but I just prayed that he would. I went from almost commanding God to, Lord, as your humble servant, I'm begging, I'm asking for a miracle. Give me this miracle. That miracle didn't work the way that we wanted it to, but the way that God has changed our hearts since, I don't like saying losing Jackson because he's not lost. He's very much in heaven. There's no doubt where Jackson is, but since Jackson's gone, that faith has changed from where it was very specific to one very needed prayer. Now our prayers are stacked full of, God, how can we touch the next person? How can we, specifically a lot of Jackson's physicians, but we asked anybody who came in the room, do you know God? Do you know Christ? Because I do, and this is where my faith lies, and it's something that we just wanted to share. We knew the position that we were in, fear is gone. The worst, as far as we know, has come to pass. I have nothing else to fear from any other individual, especially just, maybe they think that I'm a lunatic because of my belief in something that I can't see, or somebody that I can't see, I can't talk to. I didn't care. It didn't matter to me. So where my faith is now is like Katie said, I know what God does. I know what God can do. We do know that he is the God of miracles. So we're seeking passionately to serve him. We want to hear, we're listening closely to whatever God has for us. And as Katie said, my son's up there. He's partying with some great friends of ours, with some family of ours. And we want to make sure that everybody's making it up there.
I think that we've definitely noticed that Jackson's situation, or whatever you call it, is now an opportunity to tell others about Christ, because Jeff always says, he's like, I can't talk about my son without talking about Jesus because he's in heaven now. And so now whenever we talk about Jackson, we had the baseboard guy come to our house. He's doing baseboards and he's at the house. He asked me how many kids I have, and I tell him and I show him who Jackson is and tell him the story. And it's just an open door to tell him about God and tell him about, God's redemption through all of this, and the strength that he gives and the peace that he gives. And although we miss him, and I would do anything to undo God's plan in this situation so I could keep him, but being it is what it is, God has done so much through it, and it's just like an open door to tell others about Christ and to encourage others, or whatever it is, which also encourages us. Every time we get to talk about it, it's almost like renewing our faith and encouraging ourselves. Well, having Jackson pass away, especially 2 days before his birthday, was not an accident. And especially knowing that there's a God who could have healed him with a blink of an eye. With just thinking about it, he could have been healed. And And to think that that wasn't an accident, that he didn't do it, is really hard sometimes to think about. But at the same time, there is no accidents when it comes to God, and everything is for a purpose. And when you see others come to know the Lord because of what happened to Jackson, it's so much easier. And we even told Kyle, that our neighbor, we said, you coming to know the Lord does not make it easy, but it makes it worth it, because we aren't here. Everybody's gonna pass away at some point, and we are not created for here. We are created for heaven. And so it makes it easier to know and to understand that everything that happens is not an accident. It is intentional for God's purpose, whether it's to make you stronger in some way, to encourage your faith, to have others come to know the Lord through your story. I think God just blessed us by giving us our friends to accept Christ in the whole process. We could see it, so we could understand a little bit of God's plan and his promises through it. I think he blessed us with that, with the timing of it. But it is really neat to see that even though a tragedy happened, there's still good that comes out of it. And it's good that's beyond like what we can understand.